When Pigasso Met Mootisse by Nina Layden. There once was a young pig named Pigasso. While the other piglets rolled in the mud and played games, Pigasso painted. He painted anything and everything, and in the most unusual way. At the same time, there once was a young bull named Mootisse. Mootisse was not like other bulls. He wasn't interested in bullfighting. Mootisse was happy only when he painted pictures, and he painted big, bold, bright pictures. In time, word of Pigasso's talent spread throughout the pig provinces. Soon, art-loving pigs from all over lined up to buy his creations. At the same time, Mootisse was getting famous in the cattle community. There weren't many households that didn't own a moosterpiece. Pigasso and Mootisse were becoming art superstars, but this came with a price. Everybody wanted to see them. Art buyers, art sellers, art students, art historians, art groupies. It was an art attack. One day, Pigasso got fed up and said, "I'm tired of this noisy pig pen." At the same time, Mootisse declared, "I'm sick of this crowded cow town." Needing a change, they both decided to look for a peaceful place where they could paint without distractions. So each of the two artists looked far and wide for the perfect spot. Pigasso found a lovely farm looking towards the east. Mootisse found a handsome farm facing the west. After Pigasso moved in, he went to introduce himself to his new neighbor across the road. At the same time, Mootisse went to introduce himself to his new neighbor across the road. That is how Pigasso met Mootisse. And coincidentally, that is how Mootisse met Pigasso. At first, Pigasso and Mootisse were friendly and welcomed each other as neighbors, but soon things began to change. It started one day when Pigasso criticized one of Mootisse's paintings. Then Mootisse made fun of one of Pigasso's. Mootisse called Pigasso an art hog, and then Pigasso called Mootisse a mad cow. Mootisse quipped, "You paint like a 2-year-old. Pigasso retorted, "You paint like a wild beast." Mootisse raged, "Your colors look like mud." Pigasso spat, "Your paintings look like color by numbers." Then things got really out of hand. It was a modern mess. "Colors look like mud." Pigasso spat, "Your paintings look like color by numbers." Then things got really out of hand. It was a modern mess. Pigasso stormed off into his house. "That Mootisse doesn't like my art," he huffed. "Well, I'll show him." And Mootisse bullied his way into his house. "I'll give that Pigasso something he can really criticize," he snorted. Then a full-scale feud erupted, but it was a most unusual battle. Armed with not to be outdone, Pigasso fired up his paintbrushes and, in full view of the enemy, counterattacked. He turned his farm into a huge and outrageous pork of art. The two artists then retreated into their houses and pulled down the shades. Pigasso certainly didn't want to look out his window and stare at Mootisse, and Mootisse had no desire to give his rooms a view of a Pigasso. This presented a problem, and there seemed to be only one solution. Without a word to each other, Pigasso and Mootisse each began to build a huge fence down the middle of their road. At first, Pigasso and Mootisse seemed satisfied. Both artists went back to painting by themselves, but after a while, Pigasso was surprised to find that he missed that bull-headed Mootisse. At the same time, Mootisse found his studio empty without the presence of a big-headed Pigasso. Pigasso pondered, "That Mootisse isn't such a bad artist. He has some interesting ideas." Mootisse moaned, "That Pigasso may not paint like me, but he knows what he's doing." However, being naturally pig-headed and bull-headed, neither artist knew how to apologize to the other, so they did what they do best. They left their paintbrushes do the talking. Pigasso painted on one side of the fence and Mootisse painted on the other. Each worked until they were exhausted. It was strangely quiet when they were done. Then Curious to see what Mootisse had been doing, Pigasso sprinted around to the other side. At the same time, Mootisse galloped over to Pigasso's side. The silence was broken as the two artists began laughing at their amazing work of art. From that day on, Pigasso and Mootisse became great friends. They happily took down the fence and shared their different views. A few months later, a big museum bought the fence. Pigasso called his side when Pigasso met Mootisse. Mootisse called his side when Mootisse met Pigasso. The critics called it incredible.